Live, we're live.
Hello, it's Friday. It's finally Friday. Woohoo! This is a really short chapter, Game of Thrones, Eddard 9. If you've seen this before, you know the deal, but I'll say it anyways. Richard is the reins of the operation. I am Old New Dude, and he is.
Richard York, Asher's trueborn son.
What we normally do is go through what he saw in the chapter, and I'll jump in with my stupid stuff. And at the very end, after we've gone through the chapter, I got some things I want to point out that I saw after it's all said and done. So take it away, Richard.
All right. So the Westeros.org chapter description. Littlefinger leads Ned to the brothel that Jon Arryn visited. There he talks to a young whore with a daughter that has the look of King Robert. As they return to the Red Keep, Ned's party is ambushed by Jaime Lannister and about 20 of his men. In retribution for the abduction of his brother, Jaime has Ned's escort killed. Ned's leg is broken during the fight, and he loses consciousness. He found Littlefinger in the brothel's common room, chatting amiably with a tall, elegant woman who wore a feathered gown over skin as black as ink. By the hearth, Heward and a buxom wench were playing at forfeits. From the look of it, he'd lost his belt, his cloak, his mail shirt, and his right boot so far, while the girl had been forced to unbutton her shift to the waist. Jory Castle stood beside a rain-streaked window with a wry smile on his face, watching Heward turn over tiles and enjoying the view. Ned paused at the foot of the stair and pulled on his gloves. It's time we took our leave. My business here is done. Sadly, he doesn't get out of there fast enough to avoid being ambushed on the way back by a Kingsguard. I wonder why. Littlefinger took his time saying his farewells. Oh yeah, someone deliberately slowed his exit.
I think he also deliberately slowed the entry to that place too.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, I'm sure it was all
set up quite nicely.
Giving Jaime and his men plenty of time, I'm sure.
Yes.
A warm rain was pelting down from a starless black sky as they walked to the stables. So there's no rain warmer than a storm of meteors, and our author loves to include images of the sun or the stars being hidden, which just might be some sort of long night symbolism.
All over the place.
Jory and the others followed. As we always say, soldiers and especially guards or others sworn to obey their high lords. She looks so like him, does she not, my lord? She has his nose and his hair. She does. Eddard Stark had touched the baby's fine, dark hair. It flowed through his fingers like black silk. Robert's firstborn had the same fine hair, he seemed to recall. Tell him that when you see him, my lord, as it please you. Tell him how beautiful she is. I will, Ned had promised her. That was his curse. Robert would swear undying love and forget them before evenfall. But Ned Stark kept his vows. He thought of the promises he'd made Lyanna as she lay dying and the price he'd paid to keep them. Promises, plural. But Ned doesn't keep his most solemn vow. Lord Baelish, what do you know of Robert's bastards?
Hey, just a second.
Yep.
He doesn't keep his most solemn vow. Would that be like to keep Dany safe?
No, my point is the most solemn vow that a person takes is the one that to take no wife or take no second wife.
Okay.
That's my point. The irony here is that Ned kept his vows, he claims. If he's actually broken the most famous vow that people take, right, then there's a huge amount of irony in him thinking this.
Nice. All right, good catch.
Lord Baelish, what do you know of Robert's bastards? Well, he has more than you for a start. Well, Ned officially has more trueborn children, and all of his 5 and Robert's 3 trueborn children are secretly bastards.
Oh, yeah.
Cersei had the babes killed and sold the mother to a passing slaver. So Cersei the slaver perhaps already realized anywhere there were public bastards, especially those with Lannister blood, she'd best bury them.
Oh, yes.
For the first time in years, he found himself remembering Rhaegar Targaryen. He wondered if Rhaegar had frequented brothels. Somehow, he thought not. Ned has a high opinion of his fellow bigamist.
Uh, remind me to come back to Bigamous at the end of this, okay?
Okay. All right. Well, I do mention another bigamous right at the very end, so I think we might be able to trigger our memories there.
Because if we leave it up to me, I'll forget all about it. So,
but my notes right near the end, we have a second bigamous to talk about. So, or third, I guess. Lord Baelish, I'd leave here in some haste if I did not care to get bloodstains on my costly clothing. Littlefinger did not need to be urged. I will bring the city watch, he promised Ned. The Lannister line parted to let him through and closed behind him. So strange that a man who vowed to bring the watch would be allowed to leave.
Yeah.
Still, we wouldn't want him to leave here entirely unchastened. So, through the night and the rain, he glimpsed the white of Jaime's smile. Kill his men. So Jaime is supposed to be a villain who decides to become good. Yes, he's misunderstood. He's the last hero of Robert's rebellion, but he's supposed to be evil here. You don't need to make excuses for this. He's a villain who realizes he can choose a different story for himself. That's part of the beauty and the growth of Jaime and Theon and Sansa, is that they're supposed to start out with people you don't like, who become people who make the choice to be better.
Well, I mean, going on those words, I mean, Jon is almost instantly liked by most. I'm not gonna say everybody. Some people can't stand him, but he's an instantly likable guy. Has few flaws, if any, that we can see in the story. So his arc is not nearly as big of an arc, in my opinion, as Jaime, Sansa, Theon, Arya. I mean,
yep.
He said it at the beginning of the book, which I say the first chapter was the most important thing was that Jon heard his wolf. But I mean, that just tells me Jon's the most important person.
He does start off as an arrogant bully who realizes he's an arrogant bully and decides he can be better.
Right, but I mean, he's not nearly like Jaime or
no,
Theon.
No. I mean,
yeah.
There's less room for growth because he was a better person to start with.
His arc is about like that, and everybody else is freaking like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Go ahead.
So we've just seen how the Kingslayer reacted when the one man he loved was taken from him. He killed innocent guards, including Jory Castle, protecting the father of the king in the north. In Jaime's 8th Storm chapter, we have an interesting interaction with the Little Kingsguard, who killed innocent guards, including Robar Royce, protecting the mother of the king in the north. When I saw him all bloody with her fled, and all the three of them unharmed, if she's innocent, then Robar and Aemon... He could not seem to say the words. Jaime had not stopped to consider that aspect of it. I would have done the same, sir. The lie came easy, but Sir Loras seemed grateful for it. Jaime did do the same. The only person he's lying to is himself. And our author connected these two specific heroic guards at the hands tourney. Jory has the near draw against Lothar Brune, who that eventually loses to Robar Royce. So he specifically connects these two people. And then Jaime's like, oh, I would have done the same. Like, he lied. Like, no, Jaime, you would have. You did.
Well, he connects them so far apart in the story that it's freaking awesome that people like you that really, really play close attention to everything catch those stuff. So I appreciate it.
He saw them cut the legs from Jory's mount and drag him to the earth, swords rising and falling as they closed in around him. When Ned's horse lurched back to its feet, he tried to rise, only to fall again, choking on his scream. He could see the splintered bone poking through his calf. It was the last thing he saw for a time. The rain came down and down and down. When he opened his eyes again, Lord Eddard Stark was alone with his dead. This is quite reminiscent of the prologue.
Right.
The Watchers moved forward together as if some signal had been given. Swords rose and fell, all in a deathly silence. It was cold butchery. The pale blade sliced through ringmail as if it were silk. Will closed his eyes. Far beneath him, he heard their voices and laughter sharp as icicles. When he found the courage to look again, a long time had passed, and the ridge below was empty. So, anyway, it's just just wanted to say, it's I think it's intentional. It's the same symbolism and imagery there.
Right. Well, as soon as you're describing Jory getting taken down and all those, I'm thinking, how many were there? Did he get 12 bloody?
Yeah. It's mentioned that they killed a lot of the Lannisters, and it's not 10-1, but they definitely killed more than
Right. Well, yeah, it was 20-1, wasn't it?
No. My point is that I think at one point, I can't remember what Robert says, but Robert says, this is done. You killed more of his men than he killed of yours, right? But he gives the exact number. It's like, it might even be something along the lines of 7 to the 3 of them or something, right? To bring in the Holy Seven and the Kingsguard kind of aspect and all that.
The Tower of Joy type thing.
Yeah. So I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm just guessing something along those lines. But anyway, the point being that they killed more of them. Of course, they were on horse, so it's easier to do that. And they're somewhat hampered by the fact that they're allowed to take out Ned's horse, but they're not allowed to take out Ned, right? Although given how close he comes to dying there with the horse falling on him, this was a hugely risky move. Even if it was just the intention was just to leave Ned unharmed, he failed in that. Jaime failed in that, right? And he almost killed him. So his whole attempt to keep it that he thinks they won't kill Tyrion as long as he doesn't kill Ned is this is a hugely risky move for Tyrion. It's certainly not doing Tyrion any favors.
No. And we're getting on they killed. I mean, Jory and Ned killed quite a few of them. And I think the other guy is the one that just kind of, I don't think he killed anybody, but I mean, Jory, I mean, even in the show, right before he got the dagger in his damn head, looked like a badass. I mean, I mean, him and Sir Roderick, like when they get attacked on the road, his sword was out first. I mean, he was on his horse somehow, sword out, ready to go. I mean, those guys really know how to fight. Yeah, I mean, they're not like superhumanly better than Southerner killing 10 for 1, as they tell Arya. Right. But their instincts and stuff like that are spot on. You can tell they train. I mean, it's
definitely they've been training. They're pretty good.
All right, good.
Littlefinger and the City Watch found him there in the street, cradling Jory Castle's body in his arms. So let's go back to Eddard 1. I was with her when she died, Ned reminded the king. She wanted to come home to rest beside Brandon and father. He could hear her still at times. Promise me, she had cried, in a room that smelled of blood and roses. Promise me, Ned. The fever had taken her strength, and her voice had been faint as a whisper. When he gave her his word, the fear had gone out of his sister's eyes. Ned remembered the way she had smiled then, how tightly her fingers had clutched his as she gave up her hold on life, the rose petals spilling from her palm, dead and black. After that, he remembered nothing. They had found him still holding her body, silent with grief. The little Craddockman, Howland Reed, had taken her hand from his. Ned could recall none of it. I bring her flowers when I can, he said. Lyanna was fond of flowers. Some think they refer to servants as if lots of servants have been trusted to keep these secrets. Right. I think Howland Reed pointed out to the Kingsguard, to crown them is to kill them. Their vows required that they give up the fight if they understood that their job is not to be Targaryen loyalists. Their job is to protect the royal family. Right. So anyway, that's what I think happened. Howland Reed said, wait, this is madness. You're killing the people you're promised to protect. You're doing them to death if you proceed with this path. Right. I think he to crown them is to kill them. And Ned makes it sound like he agreed to one promise, and he considers it to be promises. Right. That's part of where I think he promised to protect her kids. Right. It's a single promise that's kept to protect 3 people, and part of the reason why he's so frustrated with the Dany kill command is that it's going against his promise. Right. Well, a single promise to 3 babies that are no longer together. I mean, it automatically goes to plural, correct? Right. Then Grandmaster Pycelle was looming over him, holding a cup, whispering, "Drink, my lord. Here, the milk of the poppy for your pain. He remembered swallowing, and Pycelle was telling someone to heat the wine to boiling and fetch him clean silk, and that was the last he knew. And Ned went to Dreamland to visit those very Kingsguard we just mentioned. When Tyrion, the bigamist, and remember I was supposed to remind you this, the bigamist who married Catelyn's daughter was Hand, he was also ambushed by a Kingsguard and had some interesting dreams about silent sisters and thoughts of his mother. I think the spotted cat will ambush Jorah, and we will get a fever dream from Barristan about Ashara. So, in particular, I think part of the concept here of these three. Well, first off, these three are the echoes of each other, right? It's Ned and his faith in Littlefinger that brings his downfall. It's Tyrion is definitely meant to be. Like his chapters almost line up perfectly with Ned's. He does the whole climbing down to a secret passage to see the woman he loves. Like his whole story is lined up to be like an echo of Ned's story, where he's the hand of the king, and he's specifically warned not to trust Varys by Cersei, actually. Right? Uh-huh. He's specifically warned not to trust Varys. And he trusts Varys, and a Kingsguard attacks him. And later we hear from Littlefinger that he strongly implies that he lost control of Sir Mandon Moore when Sir Mandon Moore joined the Kingsguard. And Varys specifically doesn't list Sir Mandon Moore as one of the Kingsguard that Cersei owns. Mm-hmm. Right. He did that with Ned just like one or two Ned chapters ago, I think. He specifically lists which Kingsguard are controlled by Cersei. Cersei and Joffrey, and he suspiciously doesn't tell him that Sir Mandon Moore is not one of the ones controlled by Cersei and Joffrey, right? So we've got a Kingsguard that Littlefinger says, I don't control him anymore. We've got a Kingsguard that Varys suspiciously leaves off the list of the ones that are being manipulated by Cersei and Joffrey. Mm-hmm. And that Kingsguard attacks Ned after Ned's been told not to trust Varys.
Okay.
But anyway, the point being, I think that Barristan is making a mistake in trusting the Shave Pate, right?
Right.
And so the Shave Pate's probably going to arrange for one of the people who's been guarding Hisdar, right, to attack. Right. The one looking through the descriptions of the various pit fighters that are guarding Hisdar, the one that strikes me as being the most deadly is the spotted cat. That's just a guess on my part, but just from reading about them, that's the one that I feel like is the one that's the biggest danger.
Right.
Tyrion is specifically told that Sir Mandon Moore is the biggest danger. Right.
Right.
So, and yes, I know you want to talk about Tyrion and bigamy, but my point is that although I expect the Weeds of Winter to require pulling out that Joanna Lannister is alive and a silent sister in King's Landing, I think there's seeds planted that imply that Joanna Lannister is alive and a silent sister in King's Landing.
Yes, I agree.
We obviously believe that part of the point of Ned's dream is that these Kingsguard are still alive, right?
Right.
So I think Barristan's going to dream about Ashara Dayne. Oh, and I think the Red Lamb might save Barristan from being attacked by the Spotted Cat. Mm-hmm. I think he of the new knights that Barristan is making, I think he's the one that most resembles Podrick.
Okay.
So anyway, that's my prediction.
Not a bad prediction. Speaking of bigamous, and you got to be honest with you, I forgot what I originally thought about bigamous. I've been sitting here this whole time trying to come up with another bigamous comment so I don't look like a complete idiot. So my other bigamous comment would be Ned's daughter that's already married once is going to get married again.
Right.
So she's going to be a bigamous too.
Yeah, I fully expect that. right?
Yeah.
Or she'll believe that Tyrion must have died, and she'll go ahead and right. And
Right.
of course, her marriage isn't really valid anyway because Tyrion never got an annulment. That's all BS, right?
Right.
It's there's no way that Septon was authorized to perform annulments.
Definitely. All right, we're ready for me.
Wait. One more thing.
What's that?
I was going to go back and I say, should we go back and read the part that made you trigger before in the bigamy? I guess it's the vow. It was Ned keeping his vows, right?
Right. And that was one that he couldn't.
Yeah. Anyway, not triggering anything. Go ahead, do your stuff.
Yeah. It's not. It's. You know how I am. I'm kind of scatterbrained. My notes aren't nearly as good as yours, but I'm gonna just read what I got written down, and then after each point, there'd be a change for you to say something. Then we're gonna switch seats for a second.
Sounds good.
We have Ned with a young mother that has a child of royal blood that is the spitting image of the father. The last child will probably be the one Lyanna, well, the last child that Lyanna would have with her would be the last one that she was holding when she was talking to Ned. So that would be Dany. So it's two daughters that look like the father. Let's see. If we have a mirror of the situation, a girl that has the royal father's look, a Ned vow to tell the father how much she looks like him, this would be Dany that Lyanna was holding. I mean, I don't know if that made any sense.
Yeah,
Could you unstupefy that?
Yeah, kind of. Right. So, yeah.
Okay.
So your point is maybe part of the reason why he's now thinking about Rhaegar and so forth after not thinking about it for years is that now he's specifically remembering how close this is to the situation of Rhaegar's kids and how they pretty much look like Rhaegar. That makes a lot of sense. And
yeah, well, situations that are similar automatically bring the first situation to memory, I would think.
Yeah.
All right, and this next point, the thought of the promises. Again, we are talking of promises about children of royal blood, and promises mean more than one. All right, you already covered that.
No, that was good. I didn't draw that connection to Rhaegar's kids with
right.
So
right. I'm assuming that each promise was each individual child.
Right. He's promising. We hear him remembering the promise, and it sounds like he's only remembering one, but he's telling us that it was multiple, which implies that even though we remember him saying "I promise" and like going through that, and it's sounding like there's only one promise, it's probably protect my three kids, which by the way is the same thing he promises Robert on his deathbed.
Yeah.
So speaking of Robert and Lyanna, right? He specifically says, "Take care of my kids," and Ned's like, "I can't lie to him," but then he's like, he remembers the bastards, and then so he says, "Yes, I will take care. I'll make sure that your kids are okay."
Yeah, he figured out a way to answer without it being a lie. Right. A loophole. Okay.
Right, but it is the same thing. It's a deathbed promise to protect my three kids.
Right, but the whore isn't dead yet, but. I mean, it's still pretty close to the same situation. All right. Next point. What Ned tells her about the child shall not go wanting is after the promise, the same promise as before with Lyanna. The promise isn't about keeping Jon safe from Robert. It's not about raising Jon as his own. Ned is not suggesting he take baby Bara with him to raise as his bastard, just that it will not want. The saying that the child won't want for anything, that's not the promise.
Right.
The promise came before that. So when he's talking about what comes next, about the child not having, I mean, it's going to be like Gendry, an apprentice. I mean, the child's going to have something to take care of itself. It's not going to go for anything. Well, if the child not wanting anything was part of the promise, it should have came before. it be talked about before. So Ned's promise can't be John coming to the Winterfell and then being raised as his bastard son. So I think that separates the promise of I don't know.
I don't know, because I think it specifically is supposed to be, like I said, I think it's really like Robert's promise. It's to protect, to take care of, basically.
Right.
Take care of them, guard, however you want to phrase it. Make sure they're safe. Don't let don't let their enemies get them. However you want to phrase it, right? But the point is, it's I think it's really supposed to echo Robert's promise, and so I do think it is similar to the don't leave them wanting. But your point is, he doesn't take the kid, right? He doesn't. Right. He refuses to take. He refuses to seize Joffrey. He doesn't take this kid from he doesn't take Bera. He's going to provide for them, not he's not seizing them. Right.
He personally is not raising the child, taking care of the child, taking care of the child. So
it's a better echo. They're all better echoes if in fact he if in fact we did what the Maester of Winterfell did with the heirs to the King in the North, right? If we separate them and you guys don't need to know where each other is, get out of here, separate them. The Maester of Winterfell separates the heirs to the King in the North, and leaves everybody thinking that they're dead, right? And so the Maester of Winterfell, Maester Wallace, disappears during the rebellion.
We're getting that.
And the heirs are separated, and some guy who's called himself a half maester, which sure sounds a little bit like the bastard son of a maester, like Wallace is described, right? Is with the kid with the only wide-brimmed straw hat in the main story. And the only and one of only two wide-brimmed straw hats we've ever seen in Westeros, right?
And they're both Aegon.
This isn't fake symbolism inserted to make him look like he's a real person. This is the author giving us symbolism to tell us he is Aegon. He is a real Targaryen, right? He's I would argue an odd-numbered Targaryen, because I claim that the odd-numbered Targaryens on the throne are good and the even-numbered ones are bad. But anyway.
I remember saying that.
and I claim that Louis XVII and Napoleon II proved that in fact the Aegon that was killed was Aegon VI. But anyway.
All right. Next point. My notes are the exact same way my brain jumbles around, so I apologize. All right, it's riding through the rainy night. Ned saw Jon Snow's face in front of him, so like a younger version of his own.
Oh yeah, I forgot to highlight that one. You're right.
Yeah, we just left a child that had their father's love.
Right.
Now Ned sees Jon's.
Right.
The child that had the father's look. So
you're right. I should have definitely have mentioned that. That's definitely worth mentioning. Yes.
It's
definitely a hint. Yeah, it's definitely a hint that that as he's thinking about looking like the father, that he mentions Jon looks exactly like me. Yep.
Right. He didn't say think nephew or whatever people think it is.
Right.
That one thing right there is like ironclad in my book.
Yeah. Yeah. And the number of people who've gone through through Eddard's chapters and said he never calls him my son or thinks of him as my son. It's like he does in Bran's chapters. He does, and Catelyn tells us that he does, right?
Yeah.
But the author has deliberately not put those in Eddard chapters. He's given hints that he thinks about him as a son. But you practically visibly, not only is the word son is the first time the word son appears after the prologue is Ned saying my son to refer to Jon. But the way he stops and the look on his face and so forth, it's as close as he could get in a non-Eddard chapter to telling you Eddard is thinking of Jon as his son here, right?
Right.
And Catelyn's line is he calls him son for all the North to see, right?
Yeah. No, okie dokie. Let's continue on this point. Fathers, look, why did they fill men with such lust? If like us, if like us, you think John is Ned's. Well, he's talking about lust, and he's talking about the king's bastard. But in a way, I mean, I see a connection between John and that bastard that he just left. But we don't think that John was on the wrong side of the sheets. It wasn't lust that brought John into this world. It was love. It's kind of thin.
It's supposed to be a parallel to Rob, right? So,
right.
So when Rob is given word of the death of Bran and Rick, the two people immediately after him in the line of succession, where Bran is immediately next to him in the line of succession, and Rick is the next one after that. He and I'm saying Rick instead of Rickon or Rickard because this creates a parallel but more, right? He seeks comfort in the arms of a woman that he loves, and forsakes his need to be available for his marriage alliance, right? And when Ned is probably on the way to River Run, he would have received word of the death of Bran and Rick, the two people immediately before him in the line of succession, where Bran is immediately next to him in the line of succession, and Rick is the one after that.
Right.
And
so we have somebody else on.
And he also would be likely with his intended, the woman he was in love with, that everyone knows he was in love with. So he's probably with Ashara Dane when he received word. He is now the head of he's now the head of Winterfell. There is nobody else accountable. He decides who he marries, right? Just like Robb is the king, and he's just he would probably have seeked comfort with the woman he loved. Being Ned, he would have done the honorable thing and married her, especially since it was less clear that he was obligated to fulfill the marriage alliance that his older brother was promised to. It's arguable whether that's 100% clear to him that he has to do that, right?
Yes.
And so if he's just slept with Ashara Dane, he's been overcome with emotion, he's received word of the death of Bran and Rick, right? Robb Stark is his father's son. That's what Tywin says, that basically we knew this plan would work because Robb Stark is his father's son. He would sleep with and marry the woman that he's with when he receives word.
Right. Well, it's the second time you get a separate person saying that person is their father's son. You got Jenna saying that Tyrion is Tywin's son, and you got Tywin, which is the connection in two sayings, is saying that Robb is his father's son. But we're right there.
Even though I'm not so sure that he is, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I go back and forth on some of the stuff depending on who I listen to, and I'm like, oh, that's a good point.
Part of the problem is one of the R plus L equals J arguments is that why would Ned say let them grow up as brothers if they are in fact brothers, right? That's one of the arguments. But it's possible that Ned actually knew, and that may have been part of the sticking point of the marriage negotiation is no, she's pregnant with your brother's kid. You're not the heir to Winterfell. That kid is the heir to Winterfell, right? And so he may have said no. They were engaged. They were supposed to be married before she gave birth. There wasn't supposed to be any dishonor here. This is supposed to be the heir to Winterfell here. You've got to marry her, right?
Well, I mean, quick question. All right, a bastard is just one that's born out of wedlock. But if, let's say, Ned wasn't already married, the second he married Kat, and then Robb is born later, Robb's automatically a Stark, correct? Or is he still actually considered a bastard? He was born after the wedding, but it was just the wrong
Well, I mean,
father.
that's part of the point. Is Catelyn says we made a son there
Right.
with that marriage, and the question is did they make a son by conceiving, or did Rob become a son rather than a bastard?
Right, because of the marriage.
Because they got married, right? That's part of the argument for Rob as being really Brandon's bastard rather than Ned's bastard.
Okay. Yeah. Well, like I said, I go back and forth on some of these, but today I'm making an official stand after the. Which one is it? The third one? Or he's riding through the rain and sees Ned's or Jon Snow's face. Yep. That line, that paragraph, right in this very, very short chapter, I think is the most important thing in the entire chapter, and is the reason the chapter got written, is to throw that little teeny tiny hint that, bam, he is.
And to specifically associate that with the resemblance of Robert to his bastards, to say, oh, and that's what makes me think of Jon Snow's face looking just like mine. Yeah, right. So that's pretty good. I like
the timing that. of him thinking of Jon is while he's thinking of a bastard girl.
I still think the very best evidence is actually the very paragraph that people think proves R plus L equals J. The where he's thinking about the damage that would be done if the truth came out, and he tells you this is not a hypothetical. I have the same problem. He tells you that, right? He says my kids have the same problem. If the truth came out, the kid likely to learn the truth, to be told the truth, would be Jon Snow. Catelyn would be willing to kill him because the damage that it would do is the exact same damage. It would take away the trueborn status of my children, and he even ties the language to Arya thinking about whether or not she's a bastard, right?
Right.
And then he has the same Arya as the bastard thing with Sansa, and he ties that to Bran, not to the fact that Bran actually did learn to walk before he could climb. Come on, use your common sense, right? And he says this is as false as that. Arya being trueborn is as false as Bran climbing before he could walk.
Yeah. I mean, that was brilliant to point that out too. But this is the first time that, not going off of somebody else, not going off Order of the Green Hand.
Right, this is a piece of evidence you saw yourself. Yeah, and said, wow, that's rock solid. I mean,
if they said it, you know me, I probably forgot it. But while I'm reading that,
no, there's so much. Like I mean, we could go back and make much better videos at this point if we wanted to make our.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I've tried making videos. It comes out dry, which I'm gonna do a couple next week, anyways. But I like the interaction that we have because I work better talking to somebody versus talking to the damn camera.
I would like to do a script sometime, and maybe it'll just be me. Maybe I'll do it one time when you can't make it or something. But where it's just like sort of like David Lightbringer's 2-part, 4-hour each part theory.
Yeah, I can't talk that long.
Doing a series, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
His iceberg, right? He calls it the iceberg.
Yeah, I don't know if I can talk that long. That's
what I'm talking about. I'm saying that kind of video where it was just here's the theories that I like, and here's a brief discussion of each one. You know.
Yeah.
Or a series that's on that, you know, where it's like the ice dragon powering the wall, and Joanna's alive, and
I saw your comments yesterday on Twitter about the your favorite theories.
Yeah. Valonqar. Predicting that Barristan's gonna get attacked by the spotted cat, saved by the red lamb, and dream about a Sharadane. You know.
Well, I mean, speaking of the Valonqar, I got confirmation yesterday, Valonqar, that your shirt is on the way and headed to you. I don't have official shirts yet. We don't have official shirts yet, so I'm playing around with designs and stuff like that. I got another one that has the red eye of a blood raven underneath this red bloody hand. So, I mean, I'm playing it around. I ordered Richard a different shirt with dragons on it and everything, but eventually there'll be merchandise, but I can't get it as cheap as other people buying the exact same shirt. I like making them different. I don't want I mean, the eye with the red behind it, everything is probably my permanent, and the 3 dragons is probably going to be Richard's permanent. But in the hidden fingers, that's the reason for the blood in. But yeah, we're well over 30. I could do one of those videos because some of my earlier videos, it's like the Battle at Tower of Joy. The reason that Howland Reed was saved, Ned, is because Howland Reed can see through a glamour, and one of those 3 Kingsguard were glamored because not the Sir Gerald Hightower, but the other 2, you get specifically articles of clothing and armor and arms that are tied to the personality and the image of the Kingsguards, because you got the hat, the bat where Sir Oswald went, and then you got Dawn sticking over the shoulder of Sir Arthur Dane. So in my mind, I'm like, well, holy crap, maybe that's why Howland Reed's like, no, stop. One of those 2 people that are.
I'm a little skeptical of that, but I like the idea because it does. But one thing that I do like about that idea is it ties in the fact that he clearly knows magic, right? We're specifically told that he knows magic,
right?
And so somehow that working into the story makes a lot of sense. Now, I think that part of the point of it working in the story is Sandor needs to go to see Sansa and right and identify Sansa, but that doesn't mean there aren't other ways that specifically gets worked into the story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of my early videos were just, it's stupid crap that pops in my head. I usually ask questions, and that's how I look at theories. I don't really do the hard work like everybody else does and does research on it, because the more words I see, the tighter I get, the less I want to do it, that type of situation. It's not that I don't want to do it. Yeah. It's just that's the way my brain is wired.
Sure.
But I mean, I think when I restarted, because I quit for a year, when I relaunched the channel, started back up, I did where I'm at on theories, and I think I picked a couple of theories to let everybody know where I'm at on things. And I think it was a couple of videos where I actually switched. I'm like, man, well, this evidence here looks a little bit better. And then 2 videos later, I switched back.
I tried to write up Jamie as the Valonqar one time, and I convinced myself I was wrong. I was like, sure, Loras is foreshadowed to be like Kingslayer Stew, and sure, he's the one who's in the Jamie's position, and sure, his father matches Jamie's father, and his relationship with the royal family matches Jamie's relationship with the family, and he joined the Kingsguard to be near his lover and his sister, and he looks more like his sister than Jamie looks like Cersei. And I started to walk, and I wrote it all down, and I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever written. It's so clear that Loras is the Valonqar.
Well, I mean, if you, he is Jamie come again, basically, because Jamie does that. He's like, holy crap, this is me. So, I mean, if you thought Jamie might be the Valonqar, switching to Sir Loras is not a bad idea.
It was hard. It was so hard. I couldn't get myself to do it at first, and then I just started writing down the case, and like yes, I know he's planted all these seeds for Loras, but come on. And then and that was even before I was thinking about the fact that the definition of "the" is such that the little brother cannot mean the less little of your 2 little brothers. Like, it literally can't. That's not the way the word "the" works.
Right. Well, I mean, "the," and then what comes after it will determine what "the" stands for. The.
It means there's one of those. It means there's one of those. That's what the word "the" means. It doesn't mean that the little brother doesn't mean the less little of your 2 little brothers. It means there's only one little brother.
Yeah. If it said the littlest, I would assume that would be the youngest, but that's not what it said.
Well, that's where people are going with this. But she has 2, and so they're both her little brothers. And I'm like, but it's the right. She can only have 1.
And then not to mention that when he's born, Jamie already has a hand on her when they're pulling them out, supposedly.
Right.
But I mean, I like the Sir Loras, the Valonqar, but that's it. Yeah.
It's,
I was sitting
it's
there
just
when I wrote that paragraph.
you were talking about going back and forth, and I'm like, I've gone back and forth on a lot of things.
Oh, hell yeah.
I used to like the Raella is Quaith, but now that once you look at the word shadow and shadowy and how they're being associated with Ashara, and then you see the wet and shiny eyes or eyes wet and shiny, it's like eyes wet and shiny. That's laughing. Those are laughing eyes. And Danny has, and once you realize the Sir Shadrick and why he's been gradually hinting that the people near the neck are redheads, right? And then you see, and part of that is that how he reveals color from people's point of view, and specifically he leaves off the color if it matches the point of view's color, right? And Danny's commenting on her unusual eyes and saying their eyes wet and shiny, and then people are like, oh, she noticed if Quaith had unusual eyes. Eyes wet and shiny. That's laughing eyes. That's what it is. She didn't mention the color because she has purple eyes.
Yeah. I mean, he does that freaking, and it pisses people off. Pisses me off when he doesn't tell you a color. That's important. It's like he does not tell you the color of Tormund's.
But the point is, he has ways of hinting at it, right?
Yeah.
One of the things I was wondering is Nettles might be darker than people think, because there's clues that Mud Brown is black. There's clues in the text that Mud Brown is actually black, and he describes her skin as mud brown. The reason that's important is that the High Sparrow has mud brown eyes, and Balon Greyjoy has black eyes.
Ooh.
And there's so many of the other things that are like exactly between the two, right? But that kind of throws you off, the fact that he calls things mud brown, but there are clues throughout the text that mud brown is actually dark brown, almost black. There's subtle clues here and there where he does that.
Well, I mean, you got to stop and look at the location, because some places will have clay soil. But you got especially in King's Landing, you got the black water. Chances are there's black soil all around that place. The Riverlands, I would assume, we have the darker soil. The Westerlands probably a little bit more clay. I mean, it just all depends on the area that they're talking about.
So if you look at Toodles on the High Sparrow, he specifically goes through all the examples where it's hinted that mud brown is actually dark black brown.
Yeah. Did you catch my I'm trying not to get yelled at again theory yesterday on Twitter? I say that, it's not a theory, because I got yelled at for calling it a theory. It's opinion. It's one of those, I asked a question, and this is how that question could come to pass. The question was, how could Ned find Lyanna in a bed of blood and it not be a birthing bed?
Well, you've posed that question before.
I did it a little bit more in depth on Twitter yesterday.
Okay.
I did it nice and slow. It still came out a little bit jumbled, but I mean, it was excruciating doing it one word at a time, keep rereading one word at a time. But basically, to boil it down, is Ned found Lyanna at Winterfell in a bed of blood, which is her birthing bed, 3 babies. Chances are it was not a very easy delivery. And by this time, Rhaegar is already gone. So Ned's pissed, all right? He loves his sister. Loves his sister. Not weird way, but loves his sister.
Like Jamie.
Rhaegar just made her either a second wife or non-married. I mean, the situation is rough, and as honorable as Ned is, how Rhaegar, regardless of whether they love each other, what place he put her in society as either being the second wife or not being a wife at all would piss the hell out of Ned. And Ned's like, doesn't matter, I'm gonna go kill him. All right, well, you got Lyanna worried to death about Ned, worried to death about Rhaegar. this is where Vision gets in trouble for them being there and not telling anybody. So Lyanna wants to leave to catch up with Rhaegar, or to get to King's Landing and beg Rhaegar not to kill her brother. So she leaves. She goes to the Bear Island, same way that Rhaegar got out. So that's another reason that the Lord Mormont had to take the Black, was to protect his sister. I'm not the first to say that. Go down south, go to Starfall, come back up. Well, you got to stop and think about it.
Pretty good.
I know it's getting thick or long, but after the war was over and Robb was, I think, a year older, is when Kat traveled from Riverrun to Winterfell, and she took a maester with her, the maester of Riverrun. Well, if Lyanna had a difficult birth and was headed south, traveling even though she shouldn't, the maester that disappeared around this time would have left with her and traveled with her.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
huh?
Yeah, that's your argument that Mr. Wallace would. I actually think Mr. Wallace might have just gone with Ned to help with the wounded in battle, but plus he's the one that kind of was arranging all the whole thing in the first place, right? He's the one people blame as having been orchestrating the whole war.
All right. That he doesn't have to be there for my theory to be correct. So, okay. As they're leaving Starfall, they're coming to King's Landing. That difficult birth, she gets sick. She gets an infection. Something happens. They stop at Tower of Joy. And they send somebody further on to the King's Landing and say, hey, I'm sick here. I got the babies. Come get me. And little Varys intercepts the message. So that's Varys being able to know where Lyanna is, so he can tell Ned, hey, that's where Lyanna is. So Ned's not searching around for 3 months. That Order of Graham pointed out.
Okay. Varys was able to find. Okay, so I don't. I mean, I'm not buying all this, of course, but I'm interested in some of the details and how you're trying to fit it all together. So I still say,
well, that's basically what it is. It's a jigsaw puzzle that kind of doesn't make sense.
Right. Part of the problem is that he's planted seeds that go in different directions, and you're trying to make them all fit. I think he's going to have to pull some weeds personally, but right. So my guess is that the important thing, I think there's symbolic importance of them being born in Dorne, right? And that probably takes precedence over the clues that he planted towards Winterfell with the roses and such. So I suspect that as he goes through and prunes the garden, pulls the weeds of winter, as I like to call them, he's probably going to wind up at Tower of Joy being the place of birth, and even though he's planted seeds elsewhere, right? The clues and symbolic echoes and things that point to Winterfell. And I fully agree that there are some symbolic echoes and some clues and stuff that point to the idea that Lyanna was in the crypts of Winterfell the whole time.
The roses are the big thing for me.
But the importance of actually having them being born in Dorne, right? Yeah. Because then the argument is you've got Arthur Dayne from Dorne, you're at the Tower of Joy in Dorne, and you've got the oldest sister born in Dorne, right? And then you have him going north with the oldest sister, right? Who, according to him, is the rightful queen of all of Westeros.
Okay.
So it strengthens the argument for Arthur to be with Val if they're born at the Tower of Joy. That's my argument.
No, I'm saying that the Kingsguard traveled with her. When Rhaegar left, he left the Kingsguard there for the woman that he loves.
But you're saying they gave birth in Winterfell, aren't you?
Yeah, they gave birth in Winterfell. Rhaegar left, but he didn't take the Kingsguard with him. When Lyanna left Winterfell to head south,
but that's my point.
She had the winter.
But that's my point. My point is that if the birth itself takes place in Dorne,
right,
then it strengthens the argument for Arthur to be with Val, right? Now you can make an argument anyway. You could say no, he's a Dornishman. He believes that. He doesn't. He believes that. He believes that they right. So I get that, but I'm just saying, as the author, wouldn't you want to strengthen the symbolism of that birth by moving it to, isn't that more important? The symbolism of the birth in Dorne to strengthen the Dornish ties of Arthur to Val and have them go Dorne. That's my argument, is that if I'm writing this, I'm pulling that weed and I'm saying, nope, they're at the Tower of Joy. This is we need to simplify. There's too many weeds. I got to pull them out. This is where I'm going. That's my opinion.
About weed. Go ahead.
That's my opinion.
I'm fine with that. you know me, I don't argue.
Yeah. I'm just saying. I acknowledge that the great parallels of the birth in Winterfell, and them hiding in the crypts the whole time. The blue flowers being from the rarest flowers that are from Winterfell, and all that. Like that makes.
Then they're black and dead when she. Yeah.
He's the symbolism of Rhaegar as Bael the Bard, right? And the honeymoon is in the crypts of Winterfell. Right, and nobody can tell him that the land is gone to heck because they're specifically hiding in the crypts of Winterfell. Nobody's in communication with him, so he can't come out and set the world straight. And everybody's like, "Oh, Rhaegar let the world burn." He didn't know. Right?
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, like I said, you can switch back and forth, and there's a lot of these things that look either way.
Right. Like I said. I fully acknowledge there's some cool symbolism with that. There's some cool echoes. There's some things that point at it symbolically. But if I'm the author, I think I want them born at the Tower of Joy.
Right. Well, I mean, we don't agree all the time. That's okay. Yep. Like I said, if everybody agreed, it'd be boring as hell.
I'm disagreeing though. I'm saying he's planted seeds in both directions. I suspect that the one he's going to go with is at the Tower of Joy. Right.
But if you're correct, and it's the Tower of Joy, which I'm fine with if it's that way.
Yeah.
Val being the rightful queen, will it set up another? Well, can a queen sit the Iron Throne?
Right.
And set up another Dance of Dragons?
It points to the whole Myrcella Arianne thing too, right?
Right.
It points to and so you argue well. Part of the argument is Myrcella was in Dorne at the time when her father died. She should have been named heir. That's the Dorne, at least the Dornish, right? And so anyway, the concept being that Val being in Dorne at the time would make more of an echo with Arianne and Myrcella.
Right. Well, I don't know anything about Dance of Dragons. I don't know anything about the House of Dragons, which I'm purposely doing that to have a reaction video. And it's only going to be like a 10-minute video. It's not going to be while the show's going on. I mean, everybody else is going to have one, but I'm really excited about the show now. But the Dany headed to Westeros, Fagon in Westeros, Val is in Westeros, and then with your Dorne scenario, without putting her as the rightful heir, does that recreate the Dance of Dragons where there's a woman that should be queen, is the rightful queen, but is it going to be a battle out of those three family members that don't know each other at all, don't know the other person from Adam, don't know anything about them.
Right.
All three of those people going to fight for.
That's part of the interesting thing, right? And then you've got and then you've got the fact that Arianne and Myrcella have their own claims because the if Duran dies and Tommen dies, then arguably Duran was the next male claimant, and then his chosen heir is his oldest daughter. But
this is from Daenerys' bloodline.
There's actually quite a few Targaryen marriages into Dorne, but it's almost indisputable that the next best claim after the Baratheon claim would be the Dornish claim. They have a whole lot of Targaryen blood going back and forth there.
Right. We're almost at an hour, man.
Yeah, we need to wrap it up.
Yeah, we start talking, we talk forever. Next chapter is Daenerys. I can't remember the number, but you good for Monday?
No, I'm out of town next week.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm doing theory. See, that's how my brain is.
Yeah, we already talked about that.
Yeah, well, I forgot we talked about it. So it happens a lot. Trust me.
I mean, we talked about the fact that you were going to do theories because that's
I'm going to do a couple. I'm going to do a theory video Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, just our normal. I might do some more in-depth research into the two tower things. But either way, I hope you have a safe trip next week.
Thank you.
Thank you again for doing these shows with me. And anybody that has a comment on any of my stupid stuff or Richard's well written stuff,
dude, you've been killing it the last two times, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have my moments, and I think my brain just went into hyperdrive last night as I was reading the chapter. I didn't feel good yesterday at all.
Oh,
I was trying to take a nap all day long. I don't know what it was. Today I feel great. But last night I'm in a fit writing down this stuff as I see it. Sometimes, like I said, it comes out just like my brain is. But I have been Old New Dude, and he has been
Richard York, Asher's 2.son.
Everybody have a good weekend. Stay safe. Bye.
Bye.